Oh, here we go. Some people are joining. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to our webinar. We're just going to hang out here for a couple minutes while other people start jumping in. So we'll start in about a minute or so. Molly, did the lawnmower stop over there?
Yes, finally. Every time I go on a meeting or a call, they just show up. They know what's happening.
I know. Same here. Same here. Oh, more people are jumping in here. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in like 30 seconds. I had some loud noises out here as well, so I'm glad we're all good. The joys of working remotely. All right, I guess we're going to start going here. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. We can't really see you. I wish we could see you. Welcome to our webinar. This is a second installment of a three-part series. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about keyword research, which if you haven't had a chance to check out, it's on our YouTube channel, or we can send it to you. We also, in a few weeks, are going to talk about SEO KPIs and how to track and measure success. So that's going to be a really good one. So you should definitely join us for that. And today we're going to talk about some SEO content outside of what you might think is the typical SEO content, you know, that blog content, good stuff. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, let's do it. I promise I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so hi everybody. I am Jenna Vaccaro, and I am the director here at Mason, SEO director. I've been here for quite some time. I've been in the SEO industry for roughly 15 or so years, and you know, we love giving these webinars because we love a chance to talk about what we do. We have some really great clients, everything from e-commerce to EDU. So we're really excited to talk to you guys today about some content strategies. And I have my colleagues here, Marissa and Molly. Hi, Marissa.
Hi, I'm Marissa Bavaro. I am the SEO manager here at Mason, and been here for a few months now, and have been in the SEO industry for a few years as well.
Cool. Hi, Marissa. Hey, Molly.
Hello, I am Molly Fromm. I have been at Mason for almost 4 years, and I am an account manager.
Cool. Welcome. Really excited to have this female-powered webinar. Let's go, ladies. All right. So today we're going to talk about a bunch of cool stuff. I'm going to go over, you know, who Mason Interactive is. I'll talk about, you know, all the different types of SEO content that we like to focus on. We'll talk about some duplicate content implications and what that means. We'll talk about content gaps and opportunities with those gaps. So identifying competitors and seeking out, you know, how you can do better and be better than your competition. We'll kind of sum all that up. And then at the end, we're going to talk about some of the questions that you guys may have. So if at any time during this webinar you have any questions, there's going to be a little chat feature on the right-hand side of your screen. So feel free to jot down some questions. And also, we have an extra fun webinar today because we're going to make it a little bit interactive. So if you're at a computer, laptop, iPad, you should be able to see, you know, when we prompt the screen, you should be able to see the poll feature. So be on the lookout for that. We'd love to hear your feedback as we go play those games. All right, cool. So Mason Interactive, as some of you might know, some of you might not know, we are a boutique digital marketing agency founded back in 2009. And we are located in New York City, not really right now, but we will be soon, and North Carolina. So we just opened a North Carolina office recently. It's very exciting. So we're expanding, big things. So we focus on, as I mentioned earlier, e-commerce, EDU, direct-to-consumer. We're also a Google Premier partner and a Facebook marketing partner. And we also have 40 plus clients globally. I think that number just skyrocketed, as of the last 2 weeks since our last webinar. So we got to update that. But yeah, that's who we are. And I'm going to jump into the core of what we all came here for. So types of SEO content. Before I do that, let's take a stab at our game. Oops. Hang on.
Yes.
Hang on. Uh-oh. Hang on 1 second. Okay. Can you guys see the poll? I don't know. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, so why don't we, while we're QAing this, why don't you talk us through the first question?
Sure. So let me see if I can publish it. I think it's up now. So you need to have your focus keyword written at least 8 times in a blog post in order for it to rank. Is that myth or fact?
Ooh, so let's see, should we play some game music? We should play some music. Ooh, some people are still going. Hold on. So you need to have, what was it, 8? Your focus keyword written 8. Okay. All right. Yeah. What do we think?
All right. Well, you guys said 92% myth, and you guys are right. Nice. There's not a set amount of keywords that you need to have in a blog. You should just make it natural as you go through it and write it as if you're just putting it in naturally. Google's algorithm understands conversational and semantic text, so you should just make it as conversational as possible, getting those keywords in naturally. And, always remember to write for the user and not the search engine.
Cool.
So good job, guys.
Nice. All right. Little technical snafu, but we made it work. I hope you guys enjoyed our first game. Okay, cool. So yes, writing for the search engine is not really the idea. You want to write for the user. Google understands what you're trying to say. So stuffing those keywords, don't do it anymore. So let's talk about what the, we're all pretty familiar with blog posts, right? So when you think SEO content, we think blog posts. It is the easiest way to create a regular stream of effective SEO. So it's a great way to build authority, right? So you want to write about what you know. So you're establishing your brand as a thought leader by doing this. So if you have anything that you're selling, from degrees to perfume to dog treats, you want to make sure that although you're having your service or your product, right in front of you, you have your product pages, your service pages, but having a blog, is a way for you to establish yourself as a credible source of information. So this is Moz. We use Moz for tools in the SEO industry. We use it for competitive research, but they also have a blog and they're updating it constantly. So this blog article is fully formatted with, ordered lists, really nice imagery, internal links. So this blog post has everything that you want to see as a user. So this is going to help them rank for certain keywords, a ton of keywords. This is going to help them continuously stand out as a thought leader in their industry, which they have done for, the last decade and a half. So this is still very much important. So this is a really great example of a blog post. So the next set is product or service pages. So this is kind of a no-brainer, of course, when you have something that you're selling. Again, EDU, whether it's a degree page or a product page, you want to have those that information, as detailed and thoughtful as possible. So, a product page for e-commerce is a great entry point for transactional keywords. Buy black shoes, buy dog treats, men's size 10 sneakers, things like that. Those are transactional. We talked a lot about this the last webinar, identifying those keywords that will help the purchase behavior. So if you don't have content that speaks to those keywords, you're not going to rank for them. Nobody's going to find you for those keywords. So, product or service pages should include thoughtful, well-searched keywords and variations, and so on and so forth. So these two examples on the left is a product page. So this is Dagny Dover. This is a client that we work with very closely. So this specific product page, it has, everything you want from a product page, a nice visual, a clear title, reviews about the products, all the color variations, but also that text on the bottom right is the most important piece for us. We want to make sure that leather tote is the importance here. So we're going to create content with all the variations of leather tote in conversational, easy to read, on brand information. So we don't need to say leather tote 400 times in this page for it to rank. We're going to sprinkle it in nicely with a lot of other variations. So that's something like for e-commerce. On the right-hand side is Ramapo, I'm probably saying that wrong, college. It is a service page, a program page where the target is communication arts, right? So this page from start to finish should have everything a user, potential student might need to know about that specific program. Another one of my favorites is a list or a listicle, which is that silly jargon that combines the word list and article, if you didn't know that. So lists are just a good way of easy to digest snips of content, and things like top 10 reasons why I hate Google, or 14 unique gifts for a picky mother-in-law, which I might want to read that article. I think it's holidays are coming up. So these titles again tend to have high click-through rate when found in search results or in social media. So you've seen these BuzzFeed articles. If you're they're everywhere, they're over your social media, but it's things like catchy title, 49 things you probably won't regret buying. I'm probably going to look at this, and I don't want to, but I'm going to look at it because why not? I need to know what I need to buy. So these kind of things, again, are really helpful in terms of, combining these with an email marketing campaign or a social media campaign. Again, SEO content, something you might not think of BuzzFeed as being this organic content producer, but there's, some products and, external links sprinkled in where they're going to get credit for. They're bringing you in organically and they're sending you out to purchase. So another version of this SEO content is something like a guide or a how-to. So this could be like a white page or an ebook or something like that, where it's a longer piece of content, explains in detail specifically how to do something. It's ideal for attracting featured snippets or discovery key terms. So these are really specific, large form content that offers information for the user. So this company called Starmark has this pro training clicker. So if there's this piece of information is in a format of a white paper, it's everything possible, all of the information that you'd ever need to know. They can have this as a separate, this is, I think, in a PDF format. If this was on their website, I'd recommend using a lot of internal links to get back to other places of content. But there's a ton of information on this thing. So a lot of important research and writing went into this. But this establishes them as an influencer, as a thought leader, in their industry about the specific tool that they sell, that they want you to learn about. So another opportunity to perform in the search results organically is creating videos. So if there's something like, a pretty competitive keyword and all the results are text and, links to web pages, that's a good indicator of an opportunity to use video. So if you can go back, a quick takeaway going home from this webinar is, taking a target keyword that you think you should rank for and doing a quick search. If no videos rank, it might be a good opportunity. A good chance for videos are like, again, how to, or, showcasing your product in a question and answer format, video tutorial, how to use these things. Or, if you don't sell a product, just illustrating a process that's related to your business. So for example, another dog example, how to teach your dog to salsa, right? Like, you want to do that. I want to do that. So this is the first, these 3 videos from 3 separate channels are showing up in first position for how-to keywords. So this is a silly example, but also, that really drives that point home of, being able to capture that, those highly coveted positions. We have another game. So we're going to jump into another game. Get ready. Go ahead. Who wants to jump into this one? I think this is Molly, right?
Okay. So is this a myth or is this a fact that pages with images rank better in search results? So we will give you guys a little bit of time to answer this. Ooh, interesting. A few more seconds. Okay. 78% of you are right in that this is a fact. 97% of first page results have at least one image on the page.
Cool. So that's interesting, right? So when you think about that, right? So what was it, 97%?
97%.
So 97% of page one results have some type of image on that page when you get to it. And we're not talking a logo here, right? We're talking, an image on a product, service, blog page. Molly, what do you think, to put you on the spot, what do you think are some of the best practices for, adding images to some of these pieces of content?
So when you're adding images to your pages, you really want to keep in mind a few things. So using alt text to describe your images in a few words not only helps users to understand what the image is about, but it also helps Google to understand what the image is about. You also want to make sure that you compress your images before you upload them to your site. So that way it doesn't take up too much space and bog down your site. In addition, you want to make sure that your images are in the right file format. Google usually prefers images in JPEG or PNG. So utilizing these best practices can definitely help when using images on your site.
Okay, that's good to know. That's a good takeaway. So there's a lot that goes into just writing content. There's, you got to think about all those elements, images, especially, making sure that they're quick enough for, you don't slow down the site. All right, cool. So let's move on. So there's a ton of more content I want to get to. I want to make sure that we have some time at the end. So infographics, right? So we know with infographics, if you've seen them, if you haven't, they're those large format images that contain a ton of data on a single subject. These have the potential to go viral. So having something like this with a ton of information that's just in this neat little package can rack up a lot of page views, social shares, inbound links, all that good stuff. So I know Molly found this image. So can you tell us about this infographic?
Yes, so this is a fun infographic I found about all you need to know about facial hair. So something that makes infographics really interesting and helpful is that they have eye-catching imagery. They have small bits of easy to read content that flow very easily. So infographics are great to use because they offer a lot of information in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming or boring. So it's kind of fun to digest this information, but you don't feel like, you're taking in too much or it's too much to read. Cool.
All right. I love it. Yeah. So any topics. I mean, we're silly about the facial hair, somebody who might want to use this as a, men's grooming product or, barber shop or something like this on their website. But this can happen with, anything. And this has been a useful tactic for a long time that still works to this day. So, especially now in this age where people might not, in some cases might not want to, you obviously have to decide which one is right for you, and people might not want to digest, a 10-page white paper. So a quick version of that would be, this cool infographic. Marissa, do you want to talk about these slideshows? Because I remember you sharing this and I didn't know who these people were because I feel very old. But then I looked quickly and noticed that Lily Collins was in Growing Pains. So then I was like, okay, maybe she's not. So yeah. All right. Can you talk us through the idea of slideshow?
Yeah. So this is from Town and Country. It is a slideshow of celebrity engagement rings. So as you can see, this is slide 1 of 51. So, and it has quite a bit of content on this one slide. So slideshows are a really great way to get a bunch of content into page in a more creative way than just boring users with long form content. So this is a great solution if you have a lot you want to talk about, especially if you have images. And besides being a great strategy for SEO, this can also be a great strategy for paid content. Usually when you click through the slideshow, a new ad will load in. So it's really great for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Content marketing, it's kind of sneaky with those tactics, refreshing the page delivers a new ad. They're kind of banking on you to click on some of those ads instead of, continuing that 51-page slideshow. But, all around still a good way to break out your content. Cool. So next up here, we have a couple more in this, and we'll move on to the next section of our discussion today. But something like a glossary, a well-built out glossary can be a good way to capture those long-term long tail search terms. So for this, again, more dogs content, sorry guys, appeasement gestures or barrier frustration, like these kinds of things that they're defining on this page here, is definitely something they're trying to target, probably target some of these search terms, but also give you the, give you a little bit more information. And see these blue links here, they're linking to other content that they've written. So something like a glossary is a really good, especially if you have a pretty exhaustive, EDUs, can do this, really anybody who's selling anything can benefit from something like a glossary where you're just kind of, giving an overview of what is kind of involved in your area. And then you're also, so you're establishing yourself as the authority. You're able to link out to other content that you've built to establish those articles as authority. So it's really a great way to incorporate internal links. So another piece quickly, directories, useful taxonomy of links. So if you have something like a perfume blog, right? So you might create a directory of places to buy perfume from all different stores around the country. This is an example of, this is AVO, this is a legal directory, but for lawyers, they're grouping it by practice area, city, state, legal topics. So they're basically categorizing all the content that they have already on the site. So if I clicked on any of these links, it would take me to a brand new page that talks all about U.S. visas or all about family law. So it's categorizing. It's a thoughtful way of giving users the ability to sift through content and find what they need. And it's also creating this hierarchy so Google can understand where everything should go and link to. So those are all those, different kinds of SEO content. There's an exhaustive list, but these are the ones we like to focus on. So now let's talk about duplicate content for a second. Before we do, we have another game. Who's taking this one?
This one is mine. Okay.
Molly.
Myth or fact? You will get a penalization from Google if you have duplicate content on your site.
Ooh, you will get a penalization if you have duplicate content. That's interesting. What do you guys think?
I don't know. It's tricky.
Uh,
A few more seconds.
Ooh, it is flip-flopping.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's close. Okay.
Everyone get your answers in.
Yeah.
I should add a buzzer.
Okay. We're going to close it here. Okay.
Okay.
So 52% of you said myth, and you are correct.
Wow.
This is actually a really close one. So it's not ideal to have duplicate content on your site. But as long as it's not done in a malicious way, you might get, demoted or deprioritized in search results. But, we're not talking about Google's high-level penalizations. So we're going to talk a little bit more about other penalizations a little later on.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting the way everybody voted too. So 50%. I know we were tricky about the wording of that, but a penalization you know, is, you know, if you ever monitor your site through Google Search Console, I've dealt with many clients who in the past have come to us saying that we have this penalization, what do we do? If you're marked with having a Google penalization for something, usually it's something like malware, where it's, you know, the user doesn't know, you know, it was done not maliciously, right? So if there's something like a duplicate content issue where it's done from, you know, taking, you know, directly copying the template files from another website, and you get this penalization, it's usually hard to come back from. You have to do a lot of cleanup and resubmission to Google. But this is not what we're talking about. So the answer that Molly provided with, you know, you might get demoted if you have duplicate content and Google doesn't know which one to prioritize. It's not going to rank you well. So you might get demoted in the search results. So what we're saying here is if you borrow content from other websites, you know, this blog has this really cool thing. I'm going to just highlight some paragraphs and move it over. You know, this is college 101. Just don't plagiarize word for word, right, from other websites and try to pass it up as unique, but do research your topic. So if you're using other websites to do research, right, you're borrowing, if you're borrowing from other sources, you should write a unique piece of content and cite quotes or information from the external sources. So if there's a really cool paragraph that you're saying, you know, 50% of you know, users, you know, close their eyes when they hit enter, you know, something silly, you would link that article in your text. Here's another scenario. If you use a template with the same information across your site, let's pretend you have 4 different products, but they're very similar. And you use, you know, one's a small, one's a medium, one's a large. You have 4 different pages that talk about that product, and you use the exact same template, the exact same content across all 4, and you change like 3 words. You know, ideally, you won't get a penalization, but Google is going to have trouble understanding which one it means to rank for what terms. So don't copy chunks of content across the areas of your site. It waters down the chances of any of those pages getting traffic. But do create meaningful content. If you're saying that you have these 4 pages and there's no way you're going to be able to write 4 different unique summaries for those pages, one idea would be to combine those pages into one authority page. So have all of the products, all of the services, all of the whatever it is that you're selling on that one page, establish that as the authority, talk all about that in one way. That's a good way of getting around that. So this image is from Moz. This little robot on the left signifies Google saying, I'm not going to list all of you. I'll have to figure out which one is the original. So that's exactly what I'm saying. You know, you're watering down your chances of trying to get traffic to some pages if they all look similar. Okay, so now I want to talk about those penalties that Molly teased a couple of minutes ago. So things that we want to avoid when you're creating SEO content. Please avoid shallow content. If you have noticed, you know, we see this a lot where there's a lot of pages on websites that don't really offer much value to the user. If there is something where you have 5 different pages that talk about the history of your company, but on one of the pages there's only 1 sentence, you know, something like that, where it's not really offering much to the user. There's not really much engagement. If you can't think of one keyword that somebody might be typing into Google to find, chances are it doesn't really need to be there. Google algorithm updates over and over, and every time it updates, it's always centered around content. So you want to make sure that instead of having shallow content, think about what you can do to build authority pages with the most relevant, important content and get rid of the rest. So this, again, this example of shallow content might be like if you sold, you know, makeup, let's say, and you had an entire collection page that said, you know, view all of our lipsticks, and you clicked on that page and it was just 1 lipstick in that collection page, and then you clicked on that link and it was just the lipstick. So it's making the user jump through hoops unnecessarily. So having pages that with shallow content, again, is a no. You're not still buying links, are you? You know, this is a very old tactic, of course, but you know, all things considered, backlinking is a big, you know, we get a lot of people questioning, you know, if I spend, you know, $100 on this website, this person said he's going to add my link to it. in no scenario is that going to help you rank in first position. Organic links are still important, but by getting organic, natural backlinks is the best way to do that, is create content worth sharing. If you have a website that doesn't have any outbound links, so if you're not citing any sources, if you're constantly writing blog articles, but you're not attributing them to anything, you're talking about statistics, or you're talking about trends, or you're talking about whatever it may be, and you're not really linking out to other credible sources, it's not ideal. It looks like you're just creating content in a spammy manner. So on the heels of backlinks, ignoring harmful inbound links. So what we do here at Mason is we do these checks, these regular checks for spammy links. So if we're seeing that there's an uptick of potentially toxic backlinks that are pointing to your website, we go in and we compile all those, we analyze them, and we make sure that we tell Google, please do not associate us with these links. It's called disavowing links. So you have to keep up with your backlink profile. Overusing anchor text. So that just means if you're selling dog treats and you write an article about the yummiest dog treats that dogs will go crazy for, but you use a link to that dog treat page and you say dog treats 400 times throughout that article and every single article thereafter, it's not necessary. So we want to target pages accordingly and thoroughly, but you don't need to overuse those anchor texts. This is a little bit more for e-commerce, but if you have reviews, that's great. If they're obtained through a third-party source, that's the best way to do it. But if you're falsifying reviews, let's say you get testimonials, but you're trying to pass them off as reviews, it's not really ideal. So what I mean by marking up third-party reviews, if you're saying that you have 5-star reviews on Google, if you copy and paste those reviews in Google and you mark them up with what's called review schema, I've seen this before, you're basically trying to pass those reviews off as your own. Google is onto that, so they're not going to prioritize your site in any way. Again, masking testimonials as first-party reviews. So what we don't want to say is, somebody, Susan from the food store told me that they really liked my website, and I'm going to just go say, Susan said A+ on my homepage, So that's really what I'm trying to get at, is when you want to make sure that you're staying clear of, any issues with your SEO content from a penalization. So we have one final poll. So I think this is Marissa.
Yes. So this one is all about organic search. So organic search drives more than blank % of all search traffic. What do you guys think?
What was it again? Organic search drives
more than blank % of all search traffic.
Good one.
Let's see. Whoa. All right, everyone get your answers in.
All right, next webinar, I'm definitely playing music.
All right, last few seconds here. Okay, so it looks like everyone was split mostly between 90% and 53%. So the majority of you said 53%, and that's true.
Wow.
So even though it's not 90, it is still the majority of all search traffic. So because of that, it's incredibly important to spend time to produce some content that is geared towards SEO, so that you can drive that organic traffic to your website. And that's why we're here talking about this, because it's extremely important to, dedicate some time and effort into this practice.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marissa. Okay. Last section of our webinar here is content gaps and opportunities. So this is all about competition. And we'll get into this, and then we'll save a couple minutes at the end to answer some of your questions. So content gaps and opportunities. So what we like to do here when we're talking about, leveraging some organic content, we want to make sure that, all right, let's find out what topic, what product, what key phrase are we going to go after? Let's analyze the competitors. So, for our clients, we know who the competitors are, but I'm talking about competitors for the target key phrase or the product or the topic that you are trying to show up for. So if you decide that you want to write an article about, unique gifts for mother-in-laws, you want to type that in and see what shows up. It might be Etsy, it might be a BuzzFeed article, it might be, some small mom and pop shop that's showing up locally. But you want to analyze those competitors, see what's happening with those. If there's an article out there that has, or a product page that has, these unique gifts for mother-in-laws, where are their incoming links coming from? What are people sharing? What kind of images are on this website? How long is it? How much content are they talking about? Are they linking out to external resources? And then the final question is, how can you make it better? So if, number one, if you're finding that there's no places that have what I'm writing about, or it's really watered down, or it's Wikipedia, or it's something very silly that there's your opportunity. Then you decide what type to write about, right? So if you're saying, maybe in this case, I might be best served with a video because I'm going to talk about DIY crafts for picky mother-in-laws, something like that. You're really trying to understand your audience and what the opportunities are in the search results. So how can you make it better? If something exists already for the topic that you want to write about, how can you make it better? What type of, maybe you switch up the keywords, maybe you have keyword variations. Maybe it's your father-in-law. Maybe it's an article about summertime, staycations. How-to videos, again, expanding on the topic, offering more than the competition. So we talked about a lot of things today, right? So we talked about the opportunities for content outside of what we originally think of SEO content. We talked about how it's fine to use content from other sites, but make sure to cite it. But also, don't forget that the best and safe bet is unique content all the way. Not shallow, not just putting it up there to put it up there, but real information that users and Google will find informational. Be mindful of those harmful tactics. And the last thing, like we just mentioned, identify opportunities to outrank your competitors. There's a lot of pieces of software out there that helps identify those things. It's really important to stay on top of, not just your competitors that you think are always showing up for your products or services, but also what's showing up for the things that you're trying to write about. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Hi, here we are. Okay, so I know that a lot of you have been writing some questions, so I'm going to read some and see how many we can get to. Okay, so So what if you have, Raj said, what if you have two sites with the same content? If you own, if the way I'm understanding this is if you own two websites that are identical in content, and we've had this before, it depends on the scenario. So if you have, let's say, I've seen this specific example before, a flooring business in Manhattan, and they also had a flooring business in Connecticut. There was two websites, which is fine. You could either do two websites or just have one. But the two websites it was just carbon copies. And then, where it was New York was substituted for Connecticut. In that case, no, not ideal. If there was a case where you're like, I have these two websites, I can't possibly write two pieces of content, or, something like that would be to condense them into one, talk about Connecticut versus Manhattan, and what you serve, things like that. So, but if you're saying if two sites have the same content and it's your website versus somebody else who's copying off of you, and you're not, you have the original content, you can file what's called a DMCA. It's basically just like the legal version of in Google. It's kind of like a cease and desist for content. But usually you want to approach them first and say, hey, what are you doing with my content? Cool. So how do you avoid content duplication when writing meta and on-site descriptions for similar items? That's a really, really good question. So sometimes when we're doing our audits internally, we'll notice that, a common thing, especially with e-commerce, is duplicate meta titles and descriptions. So if you have similar products, the best bet is to identify something unique that you can switch around. So if you have, 10 pages of content that are for black belts, you might want to add the brand in there, or you might want to add thin or leather, or something that you can identify as unique. If for some reason you can't, and it's truly the same thing, you can also have a scenario where you keep all of the versions on one page, so that you can just have one massive authority page for black belts. But when you're going through, let's say, hundreds of meta titles and descriptions, it's always sometimes it's good to do it dynamically, where you can say product name, and then the brand name next to it, or the product name and then a small descriptor like black or small or large or something like that, and then the brand name. So you can kind of run through all of them, but it really is in your best interest to have those as unique as possible. Okay, so let's see.
Ebony asked, what other kind of search traffic is there besides organic? Would the rest be PPC?
Yeah, so there's, any type of traffic. So when you're looking at, I guess that's probably rolling on the heels of the 53% traffic coming from organic. So you'll notice if you ever check out Google Analytics, you'll see there's social media traffic. So there's traffic from Facebook, Pinterest. There's also referral traffic. So if you're not using a search engine to get to a website, if you're going from dogtreats.com, here's those dog examples again, and then there's something about this clicker product. Oh, okay, I'm gonna click on it. That's gonna show up as referral traffic. That's not organic. I'm coming from another website to your website. Paid traffic, as Marissa said. So there's all sorts. There's direct traffic if somebody knows about you already and they type in your URL and they don't go to a search engine. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna do one more. I'm going to do one more question, and then anything else that we didn't get to, we will gladly send in a follow-up email. So Anna said, how many inbound external links should I include in each blog article? So there's no real sweet spot there. You want to be sure that your internal links are useful. So if you have an article and you're talking about products, of course, you want to link back to the product so the user knows what to expect and they're reading about it. Oh, that's interesting. I want to go look at that. But you don't want to overdo it, right? You want to make sure that it's useful, it flows in conversation. The external links, there's no sweet spot there. But if there's something that you're talking about where you got the information from somewhere else and you didn't just think of it yourself, it's ideal to cite those sources as it comes and also to boost your point. So if you're saying something like, if we did say that statistic of, 53% of all incoming traffic comes from organic on average, I'd probably want to link back to that study that was done because now it just sounds like I'm making things up. So usually, again, external links, internal links, you don't want to overdo it, but you want to make sure it's done in a thoughtful way that makes sense to the reader and not the search engine.
I think that's similar to what we said about having keywords throughout. There's no set amount of keywords that you should have, but just make it natural and right. Wherever it makes sense.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So I hope we answered your questions. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. So a couple weeks from now, we're going to be talking about SEO KPIs, how to track and measure success, and how to put all of these, all the things that we're doing and pushing forward, and how to track them and how to be better, do better, constantly pushing the needle and making sure that you're staying ahead of the curve. So thank you so much, and I hope everybody has a great day. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.